You ever wonder how an idea just takes off? One minute nobody's heard of it, the next it's everywhere. We say things go viral, but what's really happening there? Well, we're going to get into it. The field of cognitive memetics gives us this incredible window into how culture actually spreads. And trust me, it might totally change the way you think about your own thoughts.
Okay, so you've probably heard the most popular take on this, right? The whole mind virus thing, the idea that memes, these little units of culture, are basically like germs. They just jump from one person's brain to the next. You see it, you catch it, you spread it. It's simple, it's catchy, but is it actually what's going on?
Well, according to some really cool research by a cognitive scientist named Cristiano Castelfranchi, that whole contagion model, it's missing a huge piece of the puzzle. The truth is, we're not just these passive victims getting infected by ideas. Nope, it's actually the complete opposite, and it gives us way more power than you'd think.
All right, so here's the core idea. Forget being a passive host. Think of your mind more like a bouncer at the most exclusive club in town. It's got a velvet rope, a guest list. It has its own goals, its own beliefs, its own agenda. It doesn't just let any random idea wander in off the street. Oh no. It's actively filtering, questioning, and sizing up every single thing that tries to get in.
So you've got these two totally different ways of looking at it. On the one hand, there's that old mind virus model, where your brain is just a sitting duck waiting to be infected. But on the other hand, you have this new cognitive model, which tells a much different story. Here, your mind is an independent operator. It observes what's going on, it interprets it, and then, and this is the key part, based on its own goals, it makes a conscious choice about whether to let that idea in the door.
And this quote from Castelfranchi just nails it. He says, if memes do not win within the mind of the individual, they cannot spread around in the population. I mean, think about that. An idea can't go viral out there in the world if it doesn't first win the audition inside your head. Your internal thoughts, your goals, that's the real battleground for every single idea. You are the ultimate judge and jury.
Okay, so that raises a pretty big question, right? If our minds are these super tough gatekeepers, how does anything new ever get in? Well, Castelfranchi points to three main reasons. Think of them like three secret passwords, or keys that an idea can use to get past the velvet rope. These are the core motivations behind why we decide to adopt a new behavior. So, to make this really clear, let's use a simple, kind of quirky example from the research. Picture this. You're traveling in a new country, you're at a nice restaurant, and you notice that everyone around you is peeling their fruit with a knife and fork. I mean, it seems a little weird, right? But you find yourself thinking, maybe I should do that too. What on earth would make you adopt a new habit like that? So why would you start using that fork and knife? Well, it turns out there are three totally different reasons this could happen. First up, you might adopt it for what's called instrumental reasons. You're just thinking, this is actually a better way to do it. My hands won't get all sticky. It's just a practical choice. Or, second, you could go the normative route. You think, well, this is the custom here, it's just what people do, so I should probably follow along. It's about fitting in with the rules. And finally, there's social identity. You might see it and think, oh, this is what the sophisticated, classy people do. It's a sign of distinction, and I want to be part of that group.
Okay, so peeling fruit with a fork is one thing. That's a pretty low-stakes decision, right? But what about adopting a completely new belief? A new piece of information about how the world works. Whoa, now we're talking about something different. When it comes to beliefs, that mental bouncer of yours gets way, way tougher. The bar for entry is much, much higher. Before our brain accepts a new belief, it runs it through this whole mental obstacle course. First off, there's source credibility. Who is telling me this? Do I trust them? Then you've got plausibility. Does this even sound believable based on what I already know? And it goes deeper. We check for coherence. Does this new idea totally clash with my other really important beliefs? Because if it does, man, it's got a serious uphill battle. And let's be honest, there's also likability. We are all a little biased toward believing things that we wish were true.
All right, so let's say an idea makes it. It runs the gauntlet, it passes all your tests, and it gets past the gatekeeper. You've adopted it. Awesome. But, and this is a big but, the story is not over. Not by a long shot. Because now you face a second absolutely critical decision, and this choice is what decides if that idea spreads or if it dies right there with you.
So this really breaks it down into a two-step process. Step one is that internal choice. Am I going to adopt this idea or reject it? But then, even if you say yes, step two kicks in. Am I going to tell other people about this, or am I going to keep it to myself? And what you decide to do in that second step, well, that's everything. That determines if an idea gets passed on or if it just stops in its tracks. And this is really the whole point. We're not just passive passengers in a car, being driven around by viral ideas. No way. At every single stage, from deciding to even let an idea in to deciding whether to share it, we are making choices. We are the ones behind the wheel. We are the active, thinking drivers of cultural evolution. Culture isn't some weather system that just happens to us. It's something we are constantly building, filtering, and spreading, one single decision at a time.
So that leaves us with one last big idea to chew on. Realizing that you're the gatekeeper, that you're the bouncer at the door of your own mind. That's incredibly empowering. It means you actually have a say in the ideas you accept, and by extension, the culture you help create. So the real question isn't just what ideas are going to go viral. The real question is, for you, which ideas will you let through the gate? And maybe more importantly, which ones will you choose to pass on?